The great space station called Harmony's Rest floated in the darkness between stars. It was huge, bigger than most moons. Ships from hundreds of different worlds docked at its many ports every day. Today was different, though. Today, the most important people in the galaxy had come here to make a decision that would change everything. Ambassador Kethavar walked down the long metal hallway toward the main meeting room. His forearms moved with grace as he practiced what he would say. Kethavar was tall and thin, with blue skin that sparkled under the lights. He came from the Hegemony, one of the most powerful groups in the galaxy. Today he would speak for them. The meeting room was enormous. Thousands of seats filled the space, arranged in circles that went up and up toward the ceiling. Each seat held a different kind of alien. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others breathed different kinds of air and sat in special glass boxes. Some looked almost like humans, but with strange colors or extra eyes. They all had one thing in common, though. They were scared. Scared of humans. The humans had only been in space for about 50 years. They came from a planet called Earth, which most aliens called Sol 3. At first, the galaxy thought humans would be easy to control. New species usually were. They would join the Galactic Council, accept their place as a junior member, and do what they were told. That was how it had always worked. But humans were different. "The meeting will now begin," announced Speaker Velthar from the center of the room. The old alien's voice reached every corner through hidden speakers. "We are here to discuss Resolution 2847, the human problem." A wave of worried sounds filled the room. Clicks, whistles, growls, and other alien noises mixed together. Everyone knew why they were really here. The humans had to be stopped. Kethavar stood up. His voice was smooth and confident. "Honored members of the Council, I speak for the Hegemony today. We face a threat unlike any in our history. The humans refuse to follow galactic law." Pictures appeared in the air above the room. They showed human ships, human cities, human soldiers. "Look at these beings," Kethavar continued. "They come from a death world. A planet so dangerous that most species would die there in minutes. They have gravity that would crush our bones, storms that could destroy cities, creatures that hunt and kill for food." More pictures showed Earth's history, wars, weapons, violence. The alien audience made frightened sounds. "These humans have spent their entire existence fighting," Kethavar said. "Fighting their planet, fighting their weather, fighting each other. They know nothing but violence." A representative from the Zephyrian Collective raised a tentacle. "But surely they can be taught. We have civilized other warrior races before." Kethavar's eyes glowed brighter. "We tried. Oh, how we tried. We offered them membership in the Council. We gave them worlds to settle. We shared our technology. And how did they respond? New images filled the air. Human colonies that looked more like military bases. Human trading ships that were clearly built for war. Human diplomats who carried weapons to peace talks. They took our gifts and made them into weapons," Kethavar said. "They settled on worlds we said were too dangerous. They improved our technology and refused to share the improvements. They demand equal treatment, even though they are clearly not ready for civilization." An alien that looked like a giant butterfly spoke up. "What do you suggest?" "We cannot simply destroy them. That would make us no better than they are." "The Hegemony proposes a solution," Kethavar replied. "We relocate them. There are empty worlds on the edge of the galaxy. Good worlds, safe worlds. We move all humans there. They can live however they want, but they cannot threaten the rest of us." "And if they refuse?" asked another alien. Kethavar was quiet for a moment. "Then we make them. We have the largest fleet in galactic history. 10,000 ships. They have maybe a few hundred. It will be over quickly." The room erupted in discussion. Some aliens thought it was too harsh. Others thought it was not harsh enough. But most agreed on one thing. Something had to be done about the humans. Far away on a planet called Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen sat in a deep underground base. The base was hidden inside a mountain in North America. Huge screens covered the walls, showing data from across the galaxy. Chen was not a large woman, but everyone who worked with her knew she was dangerous. She had fought in 3 wars and won them all. "Admiral," called her assistant, "Commander Park. We're getting the transmission from Harmony's Rest." "Put it on the main screen," Chen ordered. The transmission was in the alien language, but computers translated it instantly. Chen watched as Kethavar spoke about humans like they were animals. She saw the pictures of Earth, chosen to make her people look savage. She listened as the galaxy's most powerful beings discussed her species like a problem to be solved. "They really think they can just move us," Park said quietly. "Let them think that," Chen replied. "How long until they vote?" "The debate will continue for 6 hours. Then they vote," Chen nodded. She had expected this day for years. Humanity had known the galaxy was afraid of them. They had prepared for this moment. "Send the message," she ordered. "Which message, Admiral?" "All of them." Across the galaxy, hidden transmitters began sending signals. The signals were encrypted and sent on frequencies most aliens never used. But they reached their targets. In the mining colonies around distant suns, tough aliens who worked in conditions that would kill most species received the message. In hidden bases where rebels planned attacks against their oppressors, the signal found its way through. On forgotten worlds where entire species had been cast out by the Galactic Council, the transmission brought hope. The message was simple. "The Council has voted for our extinction. We're calling in all debts. Will you stand with the Deathworlders?" Back on Harmony's Rest, the debate was ending. Kethavar had spoken again, reminding everyone how dangerous humans were. Other aliens had shared stories of human aggression, human stubbornness, human refusal to accept their proper place. "The vote will now be taken," announced Speaker Velthar. "All in favor of Resolution 2847, authorization for pacification of Sol system and relocation of human population to designated reservation worlds." Lights began appearing throughout the room. Green lights meant yes. Red lights meant no. Yellow lights meant abstaining from the vote. The counting took several minutes. "The vote is complete," Velthar announced. 847 in favor. 23 opposed, 12 abstentions. Resolution 2847 is approved. Cheers and celebration sounds filled the room. The aliens felt safe again. The human problem would be solved. Their perfect civilization could continue without these violent newcomers causing trouble. Kethavar smiled as he left the meeting room. The hegemony fleet would begin moving toward human space immediately. It would take them 2 weeks to reach Earth. The humans would have time to surrender peacefully. If they chose to fight instead, well, it would be over quickly. What Kethavar did not know was that the humans had been listening to every word. Deep in her mountain base, Admiral Chen had heard the entire debate. She had heard them call her people savages. She had heard them vote to destroy everything humanity had built among the stars. "Send the fleet orders," Chen told Commander Park. "Operation Deathworld begins now." "Yes, Admiral. What about the Council fleet?" Chen looked at the tactical display showing the hegemony ships beginning to move toward Earth. 10,000 ships against humanity's few hundred. On paper it looked hopeless, Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Let them come. They want to see what Deathworlders can do? We'll show them." Around the galaxy, aliens who had been forgotten, oppressed, and cast aside began moving their ships. The Council had made their choice. Now the real war would begin. Admiral Thakmor stood on the bridge of his ship, the Iron Crusher. The ship was massive and ugly, built for one purpose: to smash through asteroids and extract valuable metals from their cores. Thakmor was just as tough as his ship. He was 7 feet tall, covered in thick gray skin, with 4 arms that could bend steel. His people, the Karathi, lived in the asteroid belts where most aliens would die in hours. The message from Earth had reached him while he was supervising the mining of a particularly rich asteroid. Now he read it again on his personal communicator. The humans were calling for help. The same humans who had saved his daughter's life. Thakmor remembered that day clearly. A plague had swept through the Karathi colonies. Their children were dying, and the Galactic Council said they were too busy to help. Mining colonies were not important enough. But then human doctors had arrived in unmarked ships. They brought medicine and worked day and night to save Karathi children. They asked for nothing in return. "Sir," called his second-in-command, "the fleet commanders are requesting orders." Thakmor looked out at the dozens of Karathi ships in the asteroid field. They were all mining vessels, but they were built like weapons. They had to be. The asteroid belts were full of dangers: solar storms, rogue rocks moving at incredible speeds, and pirates who thought miners were easy targets. "Send a message to all ships," Thakmor ordered. "We're going to war." Thousands of light years away, Captain Zixara crouched in the shadows of an abandoned building. She was small and quick, with skin that could change color to match her surroundings. Her people, the Vaxians, had been conquered by the hegemony 50 years ago. Now they lived as slaves, mining dangerous materials for their masters. But some Vaxians refused to accept slavery. Zixara was part of the resistance. For years they had fought a secret war against the hegemony. They had little hope of winning until the humans found them. The humans had been clever. They approached the Vaxian resistance carefully, offering help without demanding anything in return. Human weapons appeared in resistance camps. Human intelligence told them when hegemony patrols were coming. Human engineers taught them how to build better bombs. Now the humans needed help. Zixara smiled as she read their message. The resistance had been waiting for a chance like this. She activated her communicator and sent a coded signal to every resistance cell in hegemony space. The Deathworlders call. We answer. On a space station orbiting a dying star, Professor Kaladin received the human message while working on a complex equation. The Threnodi were known throughout the galaxy for their incredible minds. They could calculate things that took other species' computers hours to figure out. But their incredible intelligence had not saved them when their sun started to die. The Galactic Council had promised to help relocate the Threnodi to a new world. They had made this promise for 20 years. But the Council was always too busy, always had more important things to do. The Threnodi continued to live around their dying star, knowing that each day might be their last. Then human engineers had arrived. They brought technology that could extend the star's life and plans for new habitats that could house the entire Threnodi population. They worked for free, asking only for friendship in return. Kaladin knew exactly how to repay that friendship. Within minutes of receiving the human message, every Threnodi computer network was working on the same problem: how to destroy the Galactic Council's fleet. Captain Marcus Stone stood in the command center of Kepler Station, humanity's most secret base. The station was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in a system most aliens had never heard of. From here, humanity had been conducting its real diplomacy for the past 10 years. The Galactic Council thought they knew everything about human activities in space. They were wrong. While human diplomats attended boring council meetings and pretended to consider joining their civilization, human agents had been making friends with the species the Council had forgotten. Stone watched as responses to Admiral Chen's message poured in from across the galaxy. The Karathi heavy fleet was moving toward human space. Vaxian stealth ships were already leaving their hidden bases. The Threnodi had promised their quantum computers and tactical analysis. Dozens of other species were responding as well. "Sir," called Lieutenant Torres from the communication station, "we're getting reports from all sectors. The response is better than we hoped." Stone nodded. He was not surprised. Humanity had learned something important during their first years in space. The galaxy was full of species that had been hurt by the civilized Council. Some had been conquered. Others had been abandoned when they needed help. Many had simply been ignored because they were not powerful enough to matter. But humans understood something the Council did not. These forgotten species were not weak. They were survivors. They had to be tough to exist in the places where the Council would not help them. "What's our total force estimate?" Stone asked. Torres checked her screens. 1,500 Karathi industrial ships, all armed. 300 Vaxian stealth vessels. 50 Threnodi science ships with advanced sensors. And that's just the first wave. We're getting commitments from 23 other species. Stone did the math in his head. The Council fleet had numbers, but the Deathworld Alliance had something more important: experience fighting for survival. Back in her mountain base on Earth, Admiral Chen reviewed the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Her plan was working better than she had dared to hope. For 10 years, humanity had been secretly building relationships with the galaxy's outcasts. They had shared medical knowledge, engineering skills, and military tactics. They had made friends with beings that the Council considered beneath notice. "Admiral," Commander Park said, "long-range sensors are detecting the Council fleet. They're moving faster than expected." Chen looked at the tactical display. The hegemony was clearly eager to get this over with. Their massive fleet was burning hard toward human space. They expected to arrive and find a few hundred human ships waiting to surrender. They were going to be very surprised. "How long until our allies arrive?" Chen asked. "The first Karathi ships will be here in 36 hours. The Vaxians are already in position throughout the outer system. Our sensors can't even detect them." "The Threnodi fleet will arrive in 48 hours, Chen smiled. The Council had made a fatal mistake. They thought this would be a simple pacification mission against a single species. Instead, they were about to face an alliance of every tough, determined, dangerous species in the galaxy. On his flagship, Admiral Thakmor read reports from his captains. The Karathi fleet was making good time toward human space. His ships were not built for speed, but they were built to last. When they reached the battle, nothing would stop them. "Admiral," called his tactical officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through." Admiral Chen's image appeared on the screen. She looked calm, professional, and utterly confident. "Admiral Thakmor, thank you for coming." "The Karathi pay their debts," Thakmor replied. "Your doctors saved our children. Now we save your species." "The Council thinks they're facing just humans," Chen said. "They don't know about our alliance." Thakmor showed his teeth in what humans would recognize as a grin. "They will learn. What are your orders?" "Take position in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. When the Council fleet arrives, we'll channel them into your killing ground." "Understood. My ships will be ready." In the hidden depths of space, Vaxian stealth ships drifted silently. They had been moving into position for days, using their advanced camouflage technology to remain invisible. Captain Zixara's ship was positioned near Earth's moon, watching and waiting. The Vaxians knew how to be patient. They had spent decades hiding from hegemony patrols, striking only when the moment was perfect. This would be the biggest strike in their history. Zixara received a message from the human admiral. "All units maintain stealth. Do not reveal your positions until the battle begins. When we spring the trap, make every shot count." The captain touched her weapons controls lovingly. Her ship carried enough firepower to destroy a hegemony cruiser. The Council was about to learn what happened when they threatened the friends of Deathworlders. Professor Kaladin worked feverishly at his computers. The Threnody had been running battle simulations for days, calculating optimal attack patterns and fleet formations. Their quantum computers could process millions of possibilities in seconds. "Professor," called his assistant, "we've identified critical weaknesses in the Council fleet formation." "Show me." The holographic display showed the approaching enemy fleet. Red markers indicated vulnerable points: command ships, supply vessels, communication nodes. The Threnody had mapped every weakness. "Send this data to the human admiral immediately," Kaladin ordered, "and prepare our own ships. We may be scientists, but today we go to war." The pieces were falling into place. Across the galaxy, species that had been written off as unimportant were preparing to show the Council what they could do. The Karathi brought their massive industrial might. The Vaxians offered stealth and precision strikes. The Threnody provided intelligence and analysis, and the humans brought something the galaxy had never seen before: the ability to unite all these different species into a single, deadly force. Fleet Admiral Zekthanor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Galactic Unity. The ship was beautiful, with smooth curves and elegant lines that spoke of advanced civilization. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of his massive fleet. Over 10,000 ships from across the galaxy. The admiral was tall and thin, with silver skin and large black eyes. He belonged to the Celestial Dominion, one of the oldest and most refined species in the Council. His people had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. They did not need to. Their technology and numbers had always been enough to convince others to surrender. "Status report," Zekthanor ordered, his voice calm and confident. "All fleets report ready." "Admiral," replied his tactical officer. "We have battleships from the hegemony, cruisers from the Zephyrian Collective, and support vessels from 30 other species. The humans cannot possibly resist such a force." Zekthanor nodded. The mathematics were simple. 10,000 ships against a few hundred human vessels. The humans would see the odds and surrender immediately. This would be the shortest pacification mission in galactic history. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving long-range sensor data from the Sol system." The main display showed the human solar system. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, surrounded by its ships and space stations. The sensor readings confirmed what they expected. Approximately 300 human vessels were gathered near Mars waiting for them. 300 ships, Zekthanor mused, against 10,000. They must realize how hopeless their situation is. His second-in-command, Captain Velkris, leaned closer. Perhaps they planned to negotiate. "Humans are known for their cleverness. We will give them that chance," the admiral replied. Prepare to broadcast a surrender demand once we enter the system. The Council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. The sight was magnificent. Thousands of ships of different designs, all united under the Council banner. Surely the humans would be overwhelmed by such a display of power. Admiral Zekthanor opened a communication channel to the human fleet. This is Fleet Admiral Zekthanor of the Galactic Council Pacification Force. You are hereby ordered to surrender immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Comply, and your species will be treated with mercy. Resist and face the consequences. The response came quickly. The voice was female, calm, and completely unafraid. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We have a counteroffer. Leave now and we'll let you. The bridge of the Galactic Unity fell silent. Then several officers began to laugh. The audacity of it was almost amusing. A few hundred ships threatening 10,000. Admiral Chen, Zekthanor replied. You cannot be serious. Look at your sensor readings. You are outnumbered 30-1. Surrender now and avoid unnecessary bloodshed. I am looking at my sensors, Chen replied, and I'm afraid you're the one who should be worried. Last chance to withdraw. Zekthanor's patience ran out. Very well. You have chosen to resist. All units advance and engage. Target their weapons and engines only. We want prisoners, not corpses. The Council fleet began moving forward. The leading elements were fast attack ships from the hegemony, designed to disable enemy vessels quickly. Behind them came the heavy battleships, their weapons charged and ready. The human fleet did not retreat. Instead, they moved to intercept, their few hundred ships spreading out in what looked like a desperate attempt to cover as much space as possible. Human tactical doctrine is clearly primitive, observed Captain Velcris. They're spreading their forces too thin. Begin the attack, Zekthanor ordered. The hegemony attack ships surged forward, their weapons locking onto the human vessels. But as they closed to firing range, something impossible happened. The leading ships simply disappeared. Report. Zekthanor snapped. Unknown, sir. Sensors show the ships were there, then they weren't. No debris, no energy signatures, nothing. More attack ships vanished as they pushed deeper into the system. The human fleet continued to advance, but they were not firing. They did not need to. Sir, the sensor officer called out, his voice shaking. I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. There are ships everywhere, thousands of them. The truth hit Zekthanor like a physical blow. The humans had not been alone. Somehow they had hidden an entire fleet in the system. As he watched, the space around his forces filled with ships that had been invisible moments before. All units evasive action, he ordered. We're in a trap. The first shots came from the asteroid belt. Massive Karathi mining ships emerged from their hiding places among the rocks, their industrial cutting beams slicing through council hulls like paper. These ships were built to survive in the most dangerous environments in the galaxy. Council weapons barely scratched their armor. Admiral Thakmore's voice boomed across the comm channels as his ship rammed straight through a council cruiser. For the children you let die. From seemingly empty space, Vaxian stealth ships decloaked and opened fire. Their weapons were precise, targeting the council ship's most vulnerable points. Command centers exploded. Engine rooms went dark. Communication arrays sparked and died. Captain Zixara's voice was cold with years of suppressed anger. This is for 50 years of slavery. The Threnody science ships stayed back, but their contribution was just as deadly. Their quantum computers had analyzed every ship in the Council fleet, identifying weaknesses and coordinating the attack. Their targeting data flowed to every Allied vessel, turning the battle into a perfectly orchestrated symphony of destruction. Professor Kaladin's calculations had been perfect. The Council fleet, spread out in their confident attack formation, was being torn apart piece by piece. Sir, called the tactical officer on the Galactic Unity. We're reading ships from at least 20 different species. Karathi, Vaxians, Threnody, Marlax, Zentari, others we don't even recognize. Zekthanor stared at the tactical display in horror. The numbers had changed completely. Instead of 10,000 against 300, his fleet was facing over 5,000 enemy vessels. And these were not ordinary ships. They were crewed by species that had been fighting for survival their entire existence. A Council battleship exploded nearby, its hull cracked open by a Karathi ramming attack. Another vanished in a ball of plasma as Vaxian torpedoes found their target. The elegant formations of the Council fleet were dissolving into chaos. "Admiral," Captain Velcris said, his voice barely controlled. "We need to withdraw. This is not a battle, it's a massacre." But withdrawal was not an option. The human admiral had planned this perfectly. Every escape route was blocked by Allied ships. The Council fleet was trapped in a killing ground of their enemies' choosing. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the battle chatter, calm and professional. "Attention, Council vessels. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now and you will be treated according to galactic law. Continue fighting and you will be destroyed." Some Council ships tried to surrender. Others fought desperately, hoping to break through the Allied lines. A few attempted to ram their enemies in final acts of spite. None of it mattered. The Alliance had planned for everything. The Karathi ships were too tough to damage seriously. The Vaxian ships were too fast and stealthy to target effectively. The Threnodi provided perfect coordination, turning individual ship battles into fleet-wide tactical dominance. And the humans? The humans were everywhere, coordinating the different species, sharing intelligence, turning a collection of separate forces into a unified war machine. Zek Thanor watched his beautiful fleet die around him. Ships that had been built over centuries were reduced to scrap metal in minutes. Crews that had never seen real combat were torn apart by beings who knew nothing but survival. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from over half the fleet." "Accept them all," Zek Thanor ordered. There was no point in more death. "What about the humans' terms?" asked Captain Velcris. The Admiral looked at the tactical display one more time. His mighty fleet was gone. The humans and their allies had won the battle in less than 2 hours. 10,000 ships reduced to floating wreckage and desperate survivors. "Accept whatever terms they offer," he said quietly. "We have no choice." Admiral Chen appeared on the main screen, her expression serious but not cruel. "Admiral Zek Thanor, I accept your surrender. Your surviving ships will be escorted to designated areas where your crews will receive medical attention and proper treatment." "How?" Zek Thanor asked. "How did you hide so many ships?" Chen almost smiled. "You made the same mistake everyone makes about Deathworlders. You assumed we were alone. You never considered that other species might choose to stand with us." "This will not end here," the Admiral warned. "The Council will send more fleets." "Let them come," Chen replied. "But they should know we're not just defending Earth anymore. We're defending every species that the Council has ignored, oppressed, or abandoned. And we're very good at defending our friends." The transmission ended. Around the Sol system, the wreckage of the mightiest fleet in galactic history drifted silently through space. The Council's easy victory had become their greatest defeat. And across the galaxy, other oppressed species heard the news and began to hope. The few surviving Council ships that escaped the Sol system battle raced through space, their crews terrified and desperate. They had expected an easy victory, and instead witnessed the complete destruction of the galaxy's most powerful fleet. Now they fled toward the nearest Council stronghold, the fortress world of Centris Prime. Commander Yila Esh piloted her damaged cruiser through hyperspace, her hands shaking on the controls. Half her crew was dead, her weapons were destroyed, her engines were barely working. But she had to warn the Council about what had happened. "Commander," called her communication officer, "we're receiving a transmission." "From who?" Hilesh asked, hoping for rescue. It's from the humans." The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Chen sitting calmly in her command chair. "Commander Yila Esh of the cruiser Harmony's Dream, you are being hunted." "What do you mean?" Yila Esh demanded, though she already knew the answer filled her with dread. "Check your sensors," Chen replied. Yila Esh looked at her tactical display and felt her blood turn cold. Dozens of ships were following her through hyperspace. Human ships, Karathi ships, Vaxian stealth vessels, all moving faster than her damaged cruiser could manage. "You cannot escape," Chen continued, "but you can choose to survive. Drop out of hyperspace and surrender and your crew will live. Continue running and you will all die." The connection ended. Yilash stared at the screen, knowing she had no choice. Minutes later, her ship dropped back into normal space and powered down its engines. This scene played out across the galaxy as the few Council survivors tried to flee. None of them escaped. The Deathworld Alliance had prepared for this moment for months. They knew where every Council ship would run, and they were waiting. Deep in the Cheyenne Mountain base, Admiral Chen studied reports from across the galaxy. The first phase of Operation Deathworld had succeeded beyond her wildest hopes. Now came the second phase, the systematic destruction of Council power. "Admiral," Commander Park said, "all escape attempts have been stopped. No Council ships reached their strongholds with news of the battle." "Good. How long until they realize something is wrong?" The Council was expecting regular reports from Fleet Admiral Zekthanor. "When those stop coming, they'll investigate. Maybe 6 hours," Chen nodded. "That gives us time to move to Phase 2. Send the signal to all Alliance fleets." Across the galaxy, hidden fleets began to move. This was not a single battle. It was a coordinated attack on every major Council installation, every military base, every seat of power. On the bridge of the Iron Crusher, Admiral Thakmor received his orders and smiled grimly. His target was the Hegemony Home System, the heart of Council military power. The Karathi had special reasons to hate the Hegemony. They were the ones who had refused to help during the plague that killed so many children. "All ships," Thakmor broadcast to his fleet, "set course for Hegemony Prime. Today we settle old debts." The Karathi heavy fleet jumped into hyperspace, their massive ships loaded with weapons that could crack planets. They were not going to Hegemony Prime to conquer it. They were going to destroy it. Captain Zixara led her Vaxian strike force toward a different target, the administrative hub of Trinax, where the Council kept all their records. For 50 years, the Vaxians had been forced to work as slaves. Every detail of their oppression was recorded in those files. Soon, the galaxy would see the truth about Council civilization. "Remember," Zixara told her pilots, "we want those records intact. The galaxy needs to see what the Council really is." Her stealth ship slipped through space like shadows, invisible to any sensors the Council possessed. The administrative hub was heavily defended, but the defenders were looking for fleets of ships, not small strike forces that could appear and disappear at will. Professor Kaladin coordinated the assault from his command ship. The Threnody computers had mapped every Council installation, every defense network, every communication hub. They knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. "Phase 2 is beginning," he announced to his fellow scientists. "All calculations confirm optimal success probability." The Threnody fleet split into dozens of smaller groups, each heading for a different target. They would not fire a single shot, but their contribution would be crucial. They would disable the Council's ability to communicate, coordinate, or even understand what was happening to them. The first strike fell on Hegemony Prime like the hammer of an angry god. Thakmor's fleet emerged from hyperspace directly above the planet, their ships so close to the surface that atmospheric entry looked like a meteor shower. The planetary defense systems activated immediately, sending thousands of missiles and energy beams toward the Karathi ships. The weapons struck armor that had been designed to survive collisions with asteroids traveling at incredible speeds. The defenses might as well have been throwing pebbles. Thakmor's voice boomed from every speaker on the planet. "This is Admiral Thakmor of the Karathi Heavy Fleet. You refused to help our children when they were dying. You called us unworthy of aid. Today we show you what unworthy means." The Karathi ships opened fire. Their weapons were not elegant energy beams or guided missiles. They were brute force instruments designed to break apart solid rock. Buildings dissolved under the assault. Military bases became craters. The beautiful spires of Hegemony Prime, symbols of their advanced civilization, crumbled into dust. The planet's leaders tried to surrender, but the Karathi were not interested in surrender. This was justice for every child who had died while the Hegemony looked the other way. Simultaneously, Captain Zixara's strike force hit the Trinax administrative hub. The facility was a massive space station orbiting a gas giant, protected by energy shields and automated defense systems. But the Vaxians had studied those defenses for years, looking for weaknesses. They found them. Vaxian ships appeared inside the shield perimeter, having used their stealth technology to slip past the defenses undetected. Their weapons were precise, surgical strikes that disabled specific systems without destroying the whole station. "Security teams to all levels," the station's commander broadcast frantically. "We are under attack!" But there were no security teams. The Vaxians had already infiltrated the station days ago, replacing key personnel with their own agents. The real security forces were unconscious or dead, their uniforms worn by resistance fighters who had waited years for this moment. Zixara led her team through the station's corridors, moving with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where to go. They reached the central data core without encountering any real resistance. "Begin the download," she ordered her technician. "Everything. Every file, every record, every dirty secret the Council has hidden." "This will take hours," the technician warned. "We have hours. The station is ours." While the data download continued, other Vaxian teams spread throughout the station, capturing Council officials and ensuring that no one escaped to warn other installations. The third major strike targeted the Council's communication network. Professor Khalidin's teams did not use weapons. They used something far more devastating. Computer viruses, crafted by the most intelligent species in the galaxy, spread through Council networks like wildfire. Within minutes, Council installations across the galaxy lost contact with each other. Communication arrays went dark. Command networks crashed. Orders could not be sent or received. Phase 2 complete, Khalidin reported to Admiral Chen. "The Council command structure has been severed." "Excellent. Begin Phase 3. Phase 3 was the most ambitious part of the operation. While the major strikes had targeted military and administrative centers, smaller Alliance fleets began attacking every Council facility they could find. Mining operations, trade stations, research facilities, all of them came under attack simultaneously. The aliens who had been oppressed by the Council for centuries finally had their chance for revenge. Species that had been forced to work as slaves, that had seen their worlds stripped of resources, that had been treated as inferior beings, they all struck back at once. Captain Elena Vasquez led a mixed human-alien strike team against a Council research facility, where illegal experiments were being conducted on captured aliens. Her team moved through the facility like avenging angels, freeing prisoners and gathering evidence of Council crimes. "Burn it all," she ordered her demolition expert. "But save the research data. The galaxy needs to see what they were doing here." Explosions lit up the night sky as the facility was destroyed, but not before its dark secrets were copied and prepared for broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. The Council had ruled through fear and superior technology for thousands of years. They had never imagined that their victims would organize, would work together, would strike back with such coordinated fury. By the end of the first day, over 60% of major Council installations had been captured or destroyed. The survivors were cut off, unable to communicate with each other or coordinate a response. Ambassador Kethvar, one of the few Council leaders to survive the initial strikes, huddled in a bunker on a remote world, trying to understand what had happened. Reports reached him slowly, carried by messenger ships that had escaped the attacks. The reports painted a picture of total disaster. 3 months after the Council's vote to invade Earth, the war was over. The mighty Galactic Council that had ruled thousands of worlds for millennia had been destroyed in a matter of weeks. Their fleets were scattered debris. Their leaders were prisoners. Their empire was nothing but a memory. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in what had once been the Council chambers on Harmony's Rest. The elegant meeting hall where aliens had voted to destroy humanity now served a different purpose. Today, it would witness the birth of something new. The chamber looked very different now. The thousands of seats that had once held Council representatives were filled with beings the old government had ignored. Karathi miners sat next to Vaxian resistance fighters. Threnodi scientists shared space with former slaves from a dozen different species. Chen walked to the center of the chamber, where Speaker Velthar had once announced the vote against humanity. Now she would announce the creation of a new galaxy. 3 months ago, Chen began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "The Galactic Council voted to destroy my species. They thought we were alone. They thought we were weak. They were wrong on both counts." A cheer went up from the assembled beings. They had all suffered under Council rule. They had all been told they were inferior, unworthy, unimportant. Now they were the ones making the decisions. The old Council ruled through fear, Chen continued. They kept species separated, weak, dependent on their approval. They told us we were savages who needed their guidance to become civilized. But we learned something they never understood. Civilization is not about technology or power. It is about how we treat each other. She gestured to the mixed crowd around her. "Look around this chamber. Humans sit beside Karathi. Vaxians work with Threnodi. Former enemies have become allies. Former slaves have become free beings. This is what real civilization looks like. In the front row, Admiral Thakmor nodded his massive head. The Karathi leader had become one of humanity's closest allies during the war. His ships had been crucial in the early battles, and his people had provided the industrial might needed to rebuild after the fighting. Captain Zixara was there too, no longer hiding in shadows but sitting proudly in the light. The Vaxian resistance had evolved into a proper military force, and they now provided intelligence and special operations support for the new government. Professor Kaladin represented the Threnodi, whose incredible minds had made victory possible. Without their calculations and technological support, the Alliance never could have coordinated such a complex military campaign. Today, Chen announced, we established the Galactic Commonwealth. Not an empire built on conquest, but a true alliance built on mutual respect. Every species, no matter how small or how different, will have an equal voice in our government. The cheering went on for several minutes. Chen waited for it to die down before continuing. But we must not forget why we fought this war. The Council's crimes cannot be ignored or forgiven. Justice must be served. The chamber fell silent as a group of prisoners was led in. These were the surviving Council leaders, the ones who had voted for humanity's extinction, who had oppressed countless species, who had built their empire on the suffering of others. Ambassador Kethvar was among them, his blue skin now pale with fear. The proud alien who had demanded humanity's destruction now stood in chains before his former victims. You will be tried for your crimes, Chen told the prisoners, not by human courts but by representatives of every species you harmed. Justice will be fair, but it will be complete. Kethvar looked around the chamber at all the faces staring down at him. Karathi, whose children had died while the Council ignored their pleas for help. Vaxians, who had lived as slaves for decades. Threnodi, whose world had been abandoned to die around a failing star. Dozens of other species, all with their own reasons to hate the Council. This is not justice, Kethvar protested. This is revenge. Admiral Chen walked over to stand directly in front of him. No, Ambassador. Revenge would have been to do to you what you planned to do to us. Justice is giving you the trial you never gave your victims. The prisoners were led away to await their trials. Chen returned to the center of the chamber to continue her speech. The Commonwealth will be different from the old Council, she said. We will not rule through fear or force. We will lead by example. We will help those who need help. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. And we will never ever abandon a friend in need. The words echoed through the chamber and were broadcast across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, beings who had lived under Council oppression heard the promise and began to hope for something better. But not everyone was celebrating. In hidden bunkers and secret bases, the remaining Council loyalists plotted their return to power. They could not accept that their perfect civilization had been destroyed by beings they considered inferior. One of these loyalists was General Korthak of the Hegemony military. He had escaped the destruction of his homeworld and now commanded a small fleet of survivors. They hid in the outer rim of the galaxy planning their revenge. This will not last, he told his officers. The humans and their allies are too different. They will fight among themselves soon enough. When they do, we will be ready to restore proper order. But General Korthak did not understand what had really changed. The old galaxy had been held together by fear and force. The new Commonwealth was bound by something much stronger, mutual respect and shared purpose. Back on Harmony's Rest, Admiral Chen met privately with her closest allies to discuss the future. Admiral Thakmor, Captain Zixara, and Professor Kaladin sat around a simple table, planning the Commonwealth's next steps. There will be challenges, Kaladin warned. Other empires exist beyond Council space. Some may see our victory as a threat. Let them come, Thakmor growled. We beat the Council. We can beat anyone, Chen shook her head. We don't want to beat anyone. We want to show them there's a better way to live. And if they refuse to listen? Zixara asked. Chen's expression hardened. Then we'll defend ourselves and our friends. But we'll always try peace first. The meeting was interrupted by Commander Park, who entered with urgent news. Admiral, we're receiving reports from the Outer Rim. Council survivors are gathering into small fleets. They seem to be planning some kind of resistance. How many ships? Chen asked. Maybe a few hundred total. Nothing like their original strength. Still dangerous if they attack civilian targets, Zixara pointed out. Chen considered the situation. The Council loyalists could not threaten the Commonwealth directly, but they could cause a lot of suffering by attacking defenseless colonies and trade routes. "Send a message to all Commonwealth fleets," she ordered. "Hunt down every Council survivor. I want them captured or destroyed before they can hurt innocent people." The hunt for Council remnants continued for months. Small battles flared up across the galaxy as Commonwealth forces tracked down the survivors. Most surrendered when they realized they were outnumbered and outgunned. A few fought to the bitter end, choosing death over accepting the new order. General Korthak was among those who chose to fight. His small fleet made a desperate attack on a Commonwealth convoy, hoping to prove that the old Council could still strike back. Instead, they were destroyed in minutes by a joint force of human, Korathi and Vaxian ships working in perfect coordination. As his flagship died around him, Korthak sent one final message: "This is not over. There are others beyond the rim who will not accept your rule." Admiral Chen received the message and nodded grimly. She had always known this day would come. The Commonwealth had remade their part of the galaxy, but there were other empires out there. Some would want to test the new alliance's strength. "Let them try," she said quietly. "We've learned something important these past months. We're stronger together than we ever were apart." She looked out the viewport of her flagship at the mixed fleet surrounding it. Human ships flew alongside Korathi miners and Vaxian stealth vessels. Threnodi science ships worked with former slaves who had built their own warships from salvaged parts. It should have been chaos. Dozens of different species, hundreds of different ship designs, thousands of different cultural backgrounds all trying to work together. By all logic, it should have fallen apart immediately. Instead, it had become the most effective military force in galactic history. "Admiral," Commander Park reported, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's Ambassador Martinez at the United Nations." Chen accepted the transmission. Ambassador Martinez appeared on screen, looking excited. "Admiral, I have news from the Sol system. We've received first contact messages from 17 different species in the past week. All of them want to join the Commonwealth." 17? Chen was surprised. "From where?" "All over the galaxy. Word is spreading about what we've accomplished. Species that never had the courage to resist the Council are now asking to join us." Chen smiled. The Commonwealth was growing faster than they had ever imagined. Every week brought new members, new allies, new friends. "What about the trials?" she asked. "The first verdicts came in yesterday. Ambassador Keithvar was found guilty on all charges. The tribunal sentenced him to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 50 years if he shows genuine remorse." Chen nodded. "Justice, not revenge.